Have you ever wondered how people survived during the Great Depression? This period, spanning from 1929 to 1939, was marked by severe worldwide economic downturn. Jobs were scarce, money was tight, and putting food on the table became a daily struggle for many families. The Great Depression was a time of hardship, but it was also a time of resilience, innovation, and tenacity. Imagine a world where the convenience of supermarkets is a distant dream, where the abundance of food we're used to today is replaced with scarcity. In such a world, every morsel of food becomes precious, every meal a small triumph against adversity. Families had to adapt, to learn new ways of cooking and eating. They had to make do with what they had, crafting meals out of simple, affordable ingredients. This was a time of frugality, but it was also a time of nourishment. The meals that families prepared during the Great Depression were not just about survival, they were about thriving. The diet of this era was characterized by its simplicity and resourcefulness. Dishes were made using staple foods like beans, cornbread, and dark leafy greens, food items that were affordable, filling, and nutritious. These humble ingredients became the backbone of the Great Depression diet, providing sustenance and comfort to families during this challenging period. In the face of adversity, people found creative ways to prepare their meals, employing cooking techniques that maximize the flavor and nutritional value of their limited ingredients. The art of preservation also became crucial, as families learned to can, dry, and store food to ensure their survival during lean times. In this journey through history, we'll explore the survival strategies of the Great Depression, shedding light on the dietary practices that sustained families during this era. We'll delve into the recipes, the cooking techniques, and the preservation methods that made survival possible. Join us as we journey back in time to explore the ingenious dietary strategies of the Great Depression era. As we unravel the lessons from the past, we'll discover how resilience, adaptability, and resourcefulness can help us navigate the challenges of the present and prepare for the uncertainties of the future. What does it take to feed a family when resources are scarce? This question was a daily reality for many during the Great Depression, and the answers they found were as ingenious as they were necessary. One of the key strategies was to rely on staple foods that were affordable, nutritious, and versatile. A trio of such ingredients stood out: beans, cornbread, and dark leafy greens. Beans, for instance, were a nutritional powerhouse. High in protein and fiber, yet low in cost, beans were a common feature on the Depression-era dinner table. Whether in a warming pot of soup or a hearty stew, beans provided sustenance and satisfaction when meat was often a luxury. Cornbread, too, was a staple for many families. Made from inexpensive cornmeal, it was a filling accompaniment to any meal. Its versatility was truly remarkable. It could be baked, fried, or even used as a base for other dishes. This humble bread was a testament to the creativity that flourished even in the toughest of times. Then there were the dark, leafy greens. Rich in vitamins and minerals, these vegetables were an essential part of a balanced diet. From collard greens to mustard greens, these plants could be grown in backyard gardens, making them readily available and cost-effective. They were often cooked slowly, sometimes with a bit of bacon for flavor, resulting in a nutritious and delicious side dish. But it wasn't just about what was on the plate. The real magic lay in how these humble ingredients were transformed into meals. It was the artful blending of flavors, the inventive combinations, and the thoughtful preparation that turned simple ingredients into satisfying feasts. These thrifty meals born out of necessity were more than just food. They were a symbol of resilience, of making do with what was available, and of finding joy and satisfaction in the simple act of feeding one's family. These humble ingredients formed the backbone of many meals, but it was the way they were prepared that truly showcased the resourcefulness of the era. Innovation is born out of necessity, and in the kitchen during the Great Depression, this was no exception. During this era, inventive cooking methods took center stage as folks found ways to make the most out of what they had available. One such method was slow cooking. Tougher, less desirable cuts of meat became the norm. But these could be transformed into tender, delicious meals by cooking them over low heat for an extended period. The result? A hearty stew or soup that could feed a family for days. This technique not only made the meat more enjoyable to eat, but also allowed families to stretch their food supplies further. Leftovers were never wasted either. Everything was repurposed and nothing was thrown away. Yesterday's bread became today's bread pudding, and the bones from Sunday's roast chicken were boiled to make a flavorful broth for Monday's soup. These creative transformations ensured that every morsel was used to its fullest potential, leading to a variety of meals from a limited list of ingredients. In the absence of modern conveniences, these resourceful cooks also had to learn to adapt. They couldn't just turn up the heat on a stove or pop something in the microwave. Instead, they learned to control the heat of their wood or coal-burning stoves, to gauge cooking times by sight and smell, and to use every part of their heat source. For instance, the residual heat from a wood-burning stove could be used to slow cook a pot of beans overnight. Baking was another area where creativity shone. Without easy access to store-bought yeast, many turned to sourdough starters. These starters could be kept alive indefinitely with just flour and water, providing an ever-ready source for bread baking. These techniques weren't just about cooking, they were about survival. They were about making do with what you had and finding joy in the simple but essential act of feeding one's family. Resourcefulness was key, but preservation was an equally important skill in the Depression-era kitchen. When food is scarce, nothing can go to waste. This is where the art of preservation comes into play. During the Great Depression, people had to get creative to make sure their food lasted as long as possible, and one of the main ways they did this was through preservation. Preservation was not a luxury during the Great Depression, but a necessity. The main methods used were canning, smoking, and drying. Each of these techniques had their own unique benefits and helped to extend the shelf life of food, reducing waste and ensuring a steady food supply. Canning was particularly popular because it could preserve a wide variety of foods, including fruits, vegetables, and even meats. By sealing food in jars and heating them to kill off bacteria, families could store food for months or even years. It was a process that required time and care, but the reward was a pantry stocked with preserved food that could be dipped into whenever needed. Smoking was another method used to preserve food, particularly meat. By exposing the meat to smoke, usually from wood, it could be preserved for longer periods of time. The smoke not only extended the shelf life of the meat, but also added a unique flavor that was appreciated by many. Drying was the simplest and perhaps the oldest method of food preservation. Fruits, vegetables, and even meats were dried to remove their water content, preventing bacterial growth and spoilage. The dried food could then be stored for a long time and rehydrated when needed. These preservation methods were not just about survival but also about resourcefulness and resilience. Every jar of canned fruit, every piece of smoked meat, and every handful of dried beans represented a triumph over adversity. They were symbols of the determination and ingenuity that characterized the Great Depression era. The Depression-era kitchen was a testament to human resilience, and its lessons remain valuable today. The art of preservation is not just a relic of the past, but a skill that has timeless relevance. Whether you're a prepper planning for the future or just someone looking to reduce food waste and save money, the lessons from the Great Depression can still be applied today. The past has a lot to teach us about surviving and thriving in challenging times. This statement holds true, especially when we look back at the Great Depression era. People during that time had to find ways to make ends meet, and food was no exception. Food security and preparedness were crucial as the possibilities of the next meal were often uncertain. The people of the Great Depression era had to be resourceful, utilizing every bit of food they had, and making sure nothing went to waste. They understood the importance of a balanced diet, even in the face of scarcity, and made the most of what they had. This resourcefulness is a lesson that modern preppers can learn from. In today's world, we often take for granted the abundance of food available to us. However, in times of crisis or scarcity, it's this kind of ingenuity and resourcefulness that can make all the difference. The dietary strategies of the Great Depression era are not only about survival, they're also about maintaining a nutritious diet. Simple, affordable ingredients were combined in innovative ways to create meals that were not just filling, but also nourishing. They prioritized the importance of proteins, carbohydrates, and essential vitamins and minerals. Today, we can take these lessons and apply them to our own lives. It's about understanding the value of food, of not taking it for granted, and of being resourceful with what we have. Whether it's growing your own food, learning to preserve food for longer shelf life, or understanding how to make the most of simple ingredients, these are all strategies that can help us be more prepared and food secure. In the end, the Great Depression era was not just a time of hardship, it was a time of resilience and innovation, a time when people had to adapt, adjust, and make the most of what they had. These lessons from the past are still relevant today, teaching us that no matter how tough times may get, there's always a way to survive and thrive. The Great Depression era was a time of hardship, but it was also a time of resilience and innovation. Its lessons continue to inspire us today, reminding us that even in the toughest times we can find ways to thrive.